Abandoned alien woman was lost in space with her little daughter. Then they met this human man. The life pod drifted slowly through the dark, silent space between stars. It no longer had power to steer or send a strong signal. Its outer shell was scratched and burned, showing marks of panic repairs done long ago. Inside the small pod, the air was thin but stable, and the lights flickered weakly like they were tired of staying alive. Sarakai sat against the curved wall, holding her little daughter close. Lumi was small, her soft skin pale under the dim blue light. She slept quietly, her breathing slow and uneven. Sarakai watched every rise and fall of her chest, counting each breath like it was a gift that might be taken away at any moment. Sarakai had once been a respected xenobiologist among her people. She studied life across worlds and believed all living beings had value, even when they were weak. That belief was the reason she was here now, drifting toward nothing. Her people did not believe in saving everyone. When their colony world faced destruction, the leaders chose efficiency over compassion. Ships were filled with soldiers, scientists, and resources. Civilians were ranked by usefulness. Mothers with young children were considered a burden. Sarakai was ordered to leave her daughter behind and board a science vessel. Lumi was sick at the time, weak and unlikely to survive long travel. The leaders told her it was logical. They said it was necessary. Sarakai refused. She stole a life pod in the chaos and fled with her child. For that choice, her people erased her name, cut her from all records, and marked her pod as non-essential. No rescue signal would ever be answered. At first, Sarakai believed she could find help. Trade lanes were nearby. Other species traveled these routes. Someone would respond. But time passed. Supplies ran low. Signals went unanswered. One by one, nearby systems went dark as borders closed and alliances broke apart. War rumors spread through weak emergency broadcasts, then stopped completely. Now there was only silence. Sarakai adjusted the thin thermal blanket around Lumi. Her own body was tired. Hunger sat deep inside her, dull and constant. She had learned to ignore it, saving the last ration packs for her daughter. The pod systems made a soft warning sound. Power reserves were dropping again. Sarakai closed her eyes for a moment and pressed her forehead against the cool wall. She had prepared herself for this ending. She had accepted that she might not survive. What she could not accept was Lumi dying alone in the dark. She gently stroked her daughter's head, feeling the fine warmth of her skin. "You are not alone," Sarakai whispered softly in her native language. "No matter what happens." Lumi stirred slightly but did not wake. Then, without warning, the pod sensors made a sound Sarakai had not heard in a long time, a proximity alert. Her eyes snapped open. She rushed to the small control panel and stared at the weak display. At first, she thought it was an error. The signal was rough, unstable, and inefficient. A ship was nearby, not alien, human. Sarakai froze. Humans were strange. They were known across the galaxy as emotional, unpredictable, and dangerously stubborn. Their technology was behind many older species, yet they traveled everywhere. They took risks no logical mind would approve of. They also avoided trouble when it cost too much. And rescuing an abandoned life pod drifting in dead space always cost too much. Sarakai felt hope rise in her chest, then quickly forced it down. Hope hurt more when it failed. The human ship grew closer. Its signal was messy, filled with radiation noise and manual adjustments. It looked old, patched together with different materials, like it had been repaired many times instead of replaced. The life pod's weak beacon finally connected. A voice came through, distorted but clear enough. "Unidentified pod, this is salvage vessel Wayfarer. I'm reading low power and life signs. Do you copy?" The voice was male, calm, no fear, no demand. Sarakai hesitated. If she answered, her pod's location would be locked in. If the human chose profit over mercy, he could sell their location or take their remaining resources. She looked at Lumi. There was no other choice. "Yes," Sarakai replied, her voice tight. "We copy. We are damaged. We require assistance." There was a short pause, then the human spoke again. "Understood. I'm coming closer. Are you injured?" That was it. No questions about species, no demands for identification, no warning about payment, just concern. Sarakai did not understand it. "No serious injuries," she said carefully. "My child is weak." Another pause, this one shorter. "All right," the man said. "Hang on. I'll get you aboard." The life pod shook slightly as the human ship maneuvered. The movements were not smooth or elegant like advanced alien craft. They were rough, manual, and clearly piloted by someone who trusted instinct more than computers. A magnetic lock engaged with a heavy clang. For the first time in a very long while, Sarakai felt the pod stop drifting. The hatch opened slowly. Fresh air rushed in, warmer and richer than the recycled air of the pod. Light spilled inside, bright and yellow. A human stood there. He wore a worn flight jacket and simple utility clothes. His hair was dark, his face tired, with lines that spoke of long travel and hard choices. His eyes, however, were alert and kind. He raised his hands slowly, palms open. "It's okay," he said gently. "You're safe now." Sarakai stood carefully, holding Lumi close. The human's eyes softened when he saw the child. "She's very small," he said quietly. "She is my daughter," Sarakai replied. "I figured," he said. "I'm Elia's ward." He guided them onto his ship. The interior was cramped but clean. Every surface showed signs of use. Tools were strapped to walls. Personal items were taped in place. It felt lived in, not cold or perfect. Elias wrapped Lumi in a thicker blanket and handed her a warm, nutrient drink adjusted by his medical scanner. He moved quickly but carefully, like he had done this before. Sarakai watched him closely, waiting for the moment when he would ask for something in return. But it never came. Instead, Elias checked the pod logs, his jaw tightening as he read fragments of the abandonment record that Sarakai had failed to erase. "They left you," he said quietly. "Yes," Sarakai answered. "My people considered us inefficient." Elias let out a slow breath. His hands curled into fists for a brief moment, then relaxed. "That's not how we do things," he said. Sarakai did not reply. She had heard similar words before from diplomats who later turned away. Lumi stirred and opened her eyes slightly. She looked at Elias, her large eyes curious. "Hello there," Elias said softly, lowering himself to her level. "You're safe, I promise." Lumi reached out and touched his finger with weak but deliberate movement. Sarakai felt something shift inside her chest. For the first time since fleeing her world, she allowed herself to believe they might survive this day. Elias set a course away from the empty region, toward human-controlled space. Fuel reserves were low, and detouring would cost him profit, maybe even future contracts. He did not hesitate. As the ship moved, a warning alert flashed on the navigation screen. Long-range sensors detected a signal behind them. Elias frowned and adjusted the display. Multiple ships, alien, military-grade. Sarakai felt her blood run cold. She recognized the signal pattern instantly. "They found us," she whispered. Elias looked at her sharply. "Your people?" "Yes," she said. "They will not let us go. To them, we are property." Elias stared at the incoming signals, then at Lumi sleeping quietly in his ship. He reached forward and shut off the external beacon. "Well," he said calmly, "that's going to be a problem for them." The human ship accelerated, engines straining as the dark of space closed in around them. And somewhere behind, those who abandoned a mother and child began their pursuit. The human ship pushed forward through space, engines humming louder than before. The sound was not smooth or quiet. It was rough, almost angry, like the ship itself refused to slow down. Warning lights blinked on and off, but Elias did not look afraid. His hands moved fast over the controls, adjusting power and direction with practiced ease. Behind them, the alien ships grew closer. Sarakai stood near the wall, holding Lumi tight. She could feel the vibration of the engines through the floor. Every part of her body remembered this feeling. Chase, capture, punishment. "They will not stop," she said quietly. "They believe I stole valuable resources." Elias glanced back at her. "You mean your daughter?" "Yes," Sarakai replied. Elias' jaw tightened. "Figures." The alien ship sent a communication signal. Elias ignored it. Then another signal came, stronger this time. The screen filled with sharp symbols and cold colors. A translated voice broke through the ship's speakers. "Human vessel, reduce speed and power down. You are in possession of classified biological assets. Surrender them immediately." Lumi stirred at the sound. She whimpered softly and buried her face against her mother's chest. Elias reached up and muted the channel. "They don't sound very friendly," he said calmly. "They are not," Sarakai said. "They will take Lumi and send me to labor camps, or worse." Elias said nothing for a moment. He adjusted course again, steering toward a dense cluster of debris from an old mining zone. "That area is unstable," Sarakai warned. "Sensors will be unreliable." Elias gave a small smile. "Good." The human ship dove into the debris field. Broken metal, old satellites, and shattered rock filled the space around them. The engines screamed as Ilias pushed the ship harder than it was designed for. The alien ships followed, but they moved more carefully. Their technology was better, but their thinking was strict. They avoided risk unless ordered otherwise. Ilias flew like he was part of the ship itself. He cut power suddenly, letting the ship drift behind a massive piece of broken station hull. The engines went silent. For a few long seconds, there was only quiet. The alien ships passed by, scanning, searching. Scifi held her breath. One ship slowed, turning slightly. Its sensors brushed close to the human vessel. Lights flickered across the hull. Ilias did not move. Finally, the alien ships continued forward, assuming the human ship had fled another direction or been destroyed. Scifi felt her legs weaken. She leaned against the wall, relief washing over her like warm light, but Ilias did not relax. "They'll regroup," he said. "They always do." He powered the ship back on and changed direction again, heading deeper into human-controlled space. His fuel gauge dropped into dangerous levels. Scifi watched the numbers. "You will not reach safety with this fuel." Ilias nodded. "I know." "Then why continue?" she asked. Ilias looked at Lumi, sleeping peacefully again. "Because stopping isn't an option." Hours passed. The ship flew quietly now, conserving energy. Ilias sent out short, coded signals on civilian channels. Not military, not official, just human. Scifi listened as responses came in one by one. Cargo haulers, medical transports, old exploration ships, small mining crews. They did not ask many questions. They only asked where. Soon the alien ships returned. This time they did not speak. They moved fast, surrounding Ilias' ship from different angles. Weapons powered up, glowing with controlled energy. Ilias placed the ship between the aliens and a nearby moon, using its gravity to his advantage. Scifi felt fear rise again. "They will destroy us," she said softly. Ilias shook his head. "Not today." He opened the communication channel. "You left them," Ilias said clearly. "That means you don't get to decide their future anymore." The alien response was cold. "Human emotion does not change law. You interfere with matters beyond your status." Ilias laughed once, short and sharp. "Yeah, we hear that a lot." Suddenly, human ships arrived. They did not come in perfect formation. They came messy, fast, and loud. Different shapes, sizes, and designs filled the space around Ilias. Some had weapons, some didn't. All of them positioned themselves between the alien fleet and the small human ship carrying a mother and child. Scifi stared in disbelief. Ilias' ship received dozens of messages. "Who are we protecting?" "Got your signal." "No one gets left behind." The alien commander paused. This was not expected. Humans did not normally act together like this without orders. "You risk conflict," the alien voice warned. A human captain responded over open channel. "We risk it every day." Another voice joined. "You already made your choice when you abandoned them." The alien ships recalculated. Their leaders valued efficiency, reputation, and control. A fight here would be costly and visible. Finally, the alien commander spoke again. "This matter will be reviewed." The alien ships turned away and jumped out of the system. Silence followed. Scifi felt tears form in her eyes. She had not cried since leaving her world. She had not allowed herself that weakness. Now she could not stop. Ilias powered down the ship and let out a long breath. His shoulders slumped slightly, like the weight he carried finally eased. "It's over," he said softly. Lumi woke up again, sensing the calm. She looked around at the screens filled with friendly human signals. "Are they gone?" she asked in a small voice. "Yes," Ilias said gently. "They're gone," Lumi smiled. The human ships escorted Ilias to a nearby station. Medical teams waited. Lumi was taken for treatment, surrounded by warmth, light, and gentle voices. Scifi watched from the doorway, her heart full and aching at the same time. A human doctor approached her. "She'll be okay," the doctor said. "She just needs time and care." Scifi bowed her head slightly. "Thank you." Later, Ilias sat across from Scifi in a small station room. He looked tired but peaceful. "You don't have to leave," he said. "Humans don't treat guests like cargo." Scifi studied him. "Your species defies logic." Ilias smiled. "We've been told." "My people will record this," she said. "They will fear you." "Good," Ilias replied. "Maybe they'll think twice next time." Scifi looked down at her hands. "What do you want in return?" Ilias leaned back. "Nothing." "That makes no sense," she said. "It doesn't have to," he answered. "You and your daughter deserve a life, that's enough." When Lumi returned, healthier and brighter, she ran to Elias and hugged his leg. "Do humans always help like this?" she asked. Elias knelt down. "We try." Sarakai watched them and understood something important. Humanity was not strong because of weapons or numbers. They were strong because they refused to abandon each other. And that made them the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Life on the human station was different from anything Sarakai had known before. The station was not quiet or perfectly organized like alien habitats. It was loud, busy, and full of movement. People argued, laughed, worked, and helped each other at the same time. Nothing felt controlled, yet somehow everything functioned. Sarakai stood near a large window, watching ships arrive and leave. Some were old and damaged. Some were new and shining. All of them carried humans who moved with purpose even when they looked tired. Lumi stayed close to her side, holding a small human toy that made soft sounds when pressed. Her health had improved quickly. Human medicine was less advanced in theory but strong in practice. They treated Lumi not as a resource or a data point, but as a child who mattered. That difference changed everything. Elias visited often. Sometimes he brought food, sometimes he brought stories. Other times he simply sat quietly, fixing small tools or checking messages while Lumi watched him with bright curiosity. One day, Lumi asked a question that made Sarakai pause. "Mother," Lumi said softly, "are we still lost?" Sarakai looked down at her daughter. She had asked herself that same question many times. "No," Sarakai answered slowly. "I think we have arrived somewhere new." Lumi smiled at that and returned to her toy. Sarakai's people did not stay silent for long. News of the incident spread across nearby systems. Human ships protecting an abandoned alien child became a topic of discussion, then debate, then concern. Diplomatic messages arrived at the station, written in cold, formal language. Sarakai was asked to attend a meeting. The room was large and plain. Human representatives sat on one side. Alien envoys appeared on screens, their faces calm but sharp. They spoke of laws, borders, and agreements. They spoke of property and responsibility. They spoke as if Lumi was not a living being. Sarakai listened quietly. Then Elias stood up. "You can talk about law all you want," he said, "but you don't get to erase what you did." The alien envoy replied, "Emotion does not change outcome." Elias leaned forward slightly. "No, but it changes who shows up." Behind him, other human representatives nodded. The meeting ended without agreement. That alone sent a message. After that day, Sarakai noticed something strange. Other non-human visitors began arriving at the station. Refugees, travelers. Individuals who had been pushed aside by stronger systems. They came because they heard humans would listen. Humans did not always say yes, but they always looked. Sarakai began helping as a translator and cultural advisor. She worked slowly at first, unsure of her place. Humans did not give her orders, they asked questions instead. "What do you think?" Humans were loud and expressive. They asked too many questions and laughed at strange moments, but they shared food, they shared stories, they shared space. One human child asked Lumi why her skin was different. Lumi answered honestly. The child nodded and offered her a snack. That was it. Sarakai watched from a distance, her chest tight with emotion she did not fully understand. One evening, Elias found Sarakai alone in the observation area. "You're thinking too loud," he said gently. Sarakai looked at him. "My people would call this place unstable." Elias smiled. "They wouldn't be wrong." "Yet it works," she said. "Because people matter more than systems," Elias replied. Sarakai considered that belief will bring conflict. Elias nodded. "It already has." Not long after, reports arrived of alien factions strengthening patrols near human borders. Some feared humanity was becoming dangerous not because of power, but because of influence. Humans did not force loyalty. They offered shelter. That scared many leaders. One night, Sarakai recorded a message, not for humans, but for the wider galaxy. It was not a threat. It was not a warning. It was a record. She spoke of abandonment, of silence in space, of a human ship that stopped when logic said it should not. She spoke of a species that responded not to command, but to need. The message spread. Some dismissed it. Others listened closely. Lumi grew stronger each day. She learned human words faster than Sarakai expected. She laughed more. She slept without fear. One night she asked Elias a question while sitting beside him. "Why did you stop your ship?" she asked. Elias thought for a moment. "Because someone needed help." "That's all?" Lumi asked. "That's enough," he replied. Sarakai realized then that humans did not see kindness as sacrifice. They saw it as duty. The galaxy began to change in small ways. Alien commanders hesitated longer before abandoning civilians. Trade groups questioned old rules. Refugee ships changed course toward human space. Not because humans were perfect, but because they tried. Sarakai stood once more at the window, Lumi beside her, Elias nearby. She no longer felt like a lost survivor. She felt like a witness. Humanity did not conquer the stars. They answered them. And the galaxy would never forget that. The change did not come with explosions or great speeches. It came quietly, moving from system to system like a slow tide that could not be pushed back. At first, it was only small reports. A trade ship altered course to pick up stranded workers. A patrol delayed retreat to escort civilians. A captain broke protocol to save a damaged transport instead of valuable cargo. None of these actions were new. What was new was the reason given. Human space would not abandon them. Leaders across the galaxy noticed. Some were confused, some were annoyed, a few were afraid. Sarakai read the reports from a shared terminal on the station. She saw patterns where others saw accidents. Humanity had not declared any new laws or made demands. They had not threatened anyone. They simply kept showing up. Lumi sat beside her, drawing shapes on a digital pad. She liked to draw ships now. Not sleek ones like Sarakai's people built, but uneven human ships with strange shapes and many lights. "These ones help," Lumi said, pointing at one drawing. Sarakai smiled softly. "Yes, they do." Elias entered the room carrying 2 cups of warm drink. He handed one to Sarakai. "You've been reading too much again," he said. "The galaxy is watching you," Sarakai replied. Elias shrugged. "It always was, we just didn't notice." That was not entirely true. Human space stations began receiving more visitors. Not just refugees, but observers, diplomats pretending to be traders, scientists claiming curiosity, military officers claiming inspection rights. Humans allowed them all. They showed them the messy halls, the shared meals, the mixed crews of different species working together without strict ranking. Some visitors left shaking their heads. Others stayed longer than planned. Sarakai was invited to speak at another council meeting. This time it was larger. Many species were represented. The tone was tense. A leader from a powerful collective spoke first. "Humanity's actions disrupt balance. You create expectations that cannot be maintained." A human representative replied calmly. "We create choices." Another voice joined in. "You shelter those deemed inefficient." "Yes," the human answered. "That weakens systems. It strengthens people." The room fell quiet. Sarakai was asked to speak. She stood slowly, feeling every eye on her. "My people taught me that survival belongs to the collective," she said. "But I learned something else among humans. A collective that discards its own will always fear losing control." Murmurs spread through the chamber. She continued. "Humans do not promise safety. They promise effort. That is why others come to them." After the meeting, no agreement was reached. But no one dismissed the idea anymore. That was another change. Not all reactions were peaceful. A fringe alliance decided humans were a growing risk. Not because of military strength, but because of influence. They believed ideas were more dangerous than weapons. They tested that belief. A remote human outpost went silent. The station alarms activated. Elias was among the first to respond. He did not look surprised. "They were going to try something eventually," he said. Human ships moved quickly, not as a fleet but as a network. Messages spread across civilian and defense channels. Crews volunteered without waiting for orders. Sarakai watched from the command center, her hands clenched. The outpost was found damaged but not destroyed. Its people were alive, sheltering together. The attackers had withdrawn when human reinforcements arrived faster than expected. They had expected hesitation. They did not understand humans yet. Lumi listened to the reports quietly. "Are humans angry?" she asked. Elias considered the question. "No, we're focused." That answer mattered. Humans did not respond with revenge. They repaired the outpost, reinforced defenses, and opened communication channels. They offered talks even after being attacked. Some saw that as weakness, others saw it as confidence. Sarakai began receiving private messages from members of her own species, not officials, individuals. They asked about Lumi. They asked about humans. They asked what it felt like to live without constant fear of evaluation. Sarakai answered honestly. Humans argue, they fail, they make mistakes, but they do not measure your worth before helping you. Those messages spread quietly. One day, Lumi came home with a question from her learning group. "Mother," she asked, "why do some leaders not like humans?" Sarakai knelt beside her. "Because humans remind them of something they forgot." "What is that?" "That no system is more important than a life." Lumi thought about that. "Then humans are scary," Sarakai laughed softly. "Yes, to some." Time passed, the galaxy adjusted. Humanity did not rule, they did not conquer, they did not force change, but they became a reference point. When leaders debated hard choices, someone would ask, "What would humans do?" Not always kindly, not always fairly, but no one ignored the question anymore. Sarakai stood again at the station window, watching ships come and go. Lumi leaned against her side. Ilya stood nearby, checking schedules. "We are not lost," Lumi said suddenly. Sarakai nodded. "No, we are home," Lumi added. Ilya smiled, looking out at the stars. And far beyond the station, across countless systems, the idea spread quietly and steadily. If you are abandoned, if you are small, if no one else will come, humans might. And that knowledge changed everything.